Hello and welcome to the Lutheran Senior Life Visiting Nurses Association episode of Grieving Well. I'm glad that you joined us today as we have some important things to discuss, especially since the last year has been such a challenge for so many of us. I know that many of us have had so many changes in our life, and it has been a hard adjustment. All of our normal ways of life have been disrupted. Many people don't recognize that as a form of grief, but any change in our life can lead to a grieving process. Grief is characterized by, change and feeling like things just aren't the same as they were. So the loss of a job, the loss of a daily routine, the loss of school for our children, the loss of the support of teachers who are in person, the loss of anything that we did before the pandemic started can contribute to a grief process. When you add to this that many people have had the virus, and many of us, unfortunately, may have lost people to this virus, we may be in a situation where we have a compounded grief. And that's what I'd like to address today. I think it's important for us to recognize that we are grieving during this time. And when we understand that process better, we are able to cope better. Before the pandemic started, we had many traditions and rituals that have been followed for as long as we can remember. The pandemic has forced us to look at and think about things a little bit differently. So, when it comes to honoring our loved one's life and remembering them well, we've been forced to make other decisions, other choices, sometimes ones that we're not completely comfortable with. I've talked to many families over the last year who have had to restructure their plan for their loved one's end of life. Maybe they're doing a backyard service with just a few family members and then live streaming it online. Maybe they're doing a very small service, a mass at a church that's very limited. Maybe they're doing a very small service at the funeral home. And maybe they are posting that online for others to view so they can feel like they were part of the service. And this is a good way for us to be able to virtually connect with those who cannot be present, as there's been so much limitation to how many of us can be together in one space safely. The drawback, of course, is that we miss certain things about those gatherings. We miss the in person hugs, the smiles, maybe the tears in person from those who cared so much. We miss being able to eat together, to celebrate someone's life. And I think we can do all of those things virtually and online, but the problem is that it just doesn't quite feel the same. So the transitions we've made over the last year may have necessitated us to do things in a way that we're not really comfortable with. I've often talked to families and said, we do the best we can during the moments that we are in. But really, it is never too late to honor our loved one with a celebration of life or even a full funeral service at a later time. Many families have postponed their service indefinitely until the pandemic has passed and are planning to do something on a large scale after. And I think that's okay too. This person, was with us for potentially a long time, and they will always be with us. So there is no time frame in which it's more or less appropriate to celebrate someone's life. So if you have not had the opportunity to celebrate yet or have a funeral, please know that that is still possible. Ongoing support during the bereavement process, though, is very important as well. We need to be able to reach out to those around us and to garner as much support for ourselves as possible. One of the biggest drawbacks of the pandemic has been that sense of isolation. Isolation is never a good thing during the grief process. While we may want to crawl up in bed or lock our door and hide behind it while we cry, that is never the best way to do our grieving. We need some amount of alone time, but we need others while we grieve. I've encouraged people many times to please find a platform on which to reach out to others. So, what is that for you? Maybe that's just a phone call. Maybe that's a Zoom or a Google Duo meeting. And I think seeing people on the other end of that screen truly does bring some comfort. It is okay to cry together virtually. While it hurts us not to be able to touch the other person or give that gentle hug, I think the intentions are well understood. So, support can also come from our church, from hospice organizations, from online grief support groups, and we would love to be part of that support as well. If you or someone you know is grieving and is having a difficult time, I would encourage you to reach out for that support. Even professional counseling organizations are offering virtual visits to clients who need to connect. And if you're unable to do that, phone support is always available. It's so critical that we reach out and know that what we are going through is okay and that it's normal. Just knowing those two things alone makes a big difference. Please be sure to join us again next time as we discuss the basics of grief in order to help you understand the process better, in order to help you grieve well.